Joe presents Liquid Football.
Hello, welcome to Liquid Football on Joe. It's the show that takes you inside the dressing room and puts you in the boots of the players. I'm Kelly Cates, and joining me this week, former Ipswich and Hull defender Alex Bruce. Also, Jamie O'Hara, once of Spurs and Wolves, amongst other teams, and now player-manager at Billericay Town of the National League South. First of all, have we all recovered? Did you stay up to watch the fight at the weekend?
I was at a wedding and I actually got till 4.
No.
And then I fell asleep.
You
so
nearly made it.
Missed the fight. But I mean, I got up in the morning and watched it. It was a great fight. Fury was different class, really, the journey he's been on to get where he's, to go from the complete bottom of where he probably saw himself to be the pinnacle of where he is now is amazing.
Yeah, he's overcome all sorts of hurdles to get there as well. Did you see it?
Yeah, I got up on Sunday morning, watched it, and
that's the clean living way to do it, isn't it?
Didn't look at my phone because I didn't want to see the result, and yeah, like Jay's just said there, absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
great to see.
And we talk about the hurdles that he's overcome, and he is a controversial figure because he has had the battle with, particularly with his mental health and with depression throughout that time, and he's come through the other side of that. He's also had really controversial sort of homophobic comments and that sort of thing. So he's got a very complex character, and it's very difficult to kind of come to terms with somebody like that when they're in the spotlight, because of course you have that fame shining on you. There's movie stars, there's the world sports stars ringside at his fights, and that level of fame is just extraordinary. Is fame something that either of you chased or were wary of? What was your sort of relationship with it before you started playing football?
I mean, for me, it was always an issue in terms of growing up. I always just dreamed of being a footballer, and then obviously I married into sort of that kind of world a little bit and become, I wouldn't say I was ever a celebrity, but I was in around that world where a lot of the stuff that I was doing was not on the back pages of the paper. So I struggled with it massively, I really did. And the problem I had was that I wanted to be this big sort of, I saw that David Beckham as the idol figure and do all that sort of stuff, but I took my foot off the gas on what got me to being a professional footballer, and getting to the top of it. And that was dedication, hard work, constantly studying the game and practicing. And once I kind of got it, I got comfortable and thought, that's it now, I've made it and I'm going to be there forever. And, you know that as soon as you take your foot off the gas and you take your eye off the prize a bit, it very quickly changes for you in football. So I struggled with it massively and I couldn't wait to kind of get away from it.
So was there a point then where fame was your goal? That was your target?
No, fame was never the goal. It was never ever the goal. All I ever wanted to be was a footballer. I was with someone who was in the public eye, so it became part of my life as well. And there was some great things. It gave me loads of opportunities and to do great stuff. But for a time when I was playing football, it was never something I ever wanted to do. It was just kind of thrust upon me a little bit. And in the end, I got to a point where I was like, this isn't me. I become someone I didn't want to be, and I struggled with depression, and I was down about stuff all the time. So I went for a real bad time, and I pulled myself away from it, and even come out of football for a period of time because I just had enough of it all. I couldn't wait to get away from it. And it took me a while to kind of rebuild myself again.
What about you, Alex? Because you grew up
we were similar, weren't we?
Position. Yeah.
I was always I just concentrated on becoming a footballer, really. But obviously, I had an upbringing a little bit different to Jamie, where I had a father like you in the public eye.
But not to the same extent that a footballer
is
at
today.
Their level now, like a Manchester United or a Liverpool player would have to deal with it now.
Exactly, it was a lot. It was different, but it did give you an insight into seeing your dad on the telly, for example, like you would know, and getting stopped in the street for autographs, things like that. But when you brought up with that, it was something that I was just used to. So the fame side of things wasn't anything.
Players at their level now will charter private planes to go on holiday.
Totally
we used to get Dan Air flights on package holidays to go over to wherever, which was still all really nice. But you get on at the end of the season, and all the you would bump into footballers and their families. Yeah. All going out on the same chartered flight out to wherever it was we were off to.
Because that's the era we were in, wasn't it? It was just you'd always.
I'm not saying that as a cut, but just to point out the difference to how it is now. It was
a regular thing going on holiday when you were younger, wasn't it? And seeing football on the same planes, and like what you say now, it'd be you wouldn't really see a Premier League player on a plane now, would you? You probably got your own private plane. So
the thing is, that was say it's on that. Like that's what I used to struggle with. You know, like this is when I realised that it was a problem for me, because I was going out like everyone else. Footballers at the end of the season would go to Dubai with their families, and I was going out with my family and stuff. But we'd get out a nice yacht or something, like everyone did. Footballers did, but I just got relegated from Wolves. You know, and the public eye were on you, and it was on me especially. And I didn't, you know, when you're in it, you don't see it. It's only when you take a step back and you look from the outside in, you go, yeah, you need to stay out of this a little bit, and you need to get your head down and not. And I was still being seen in the public eye, getting pictured on yachts and stuff, and people. And then, you know, I look back at myself now and think, oh, what an idiot. What were you doing? You know, why didn't you just stay out of the limelight, keep your head down and let things pass by and concentrate on, you know, football? But when you're in it, you don't see it. And that's why I do a lot of talk with footballers now and young lads and that, because they don't see it until it's too late. And when you look on the outside and you look in and you think, if he just had a little someone round him to say...
You could do one of them crystal balls, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Where you could see what was going to happen by the actions that you were making.
I know, and you look at I had magazine shoots and stuff that I used to do, and I just look back and think, what an idiot.
Yeah.
You know, what were you doing? But I had no one around at that time to kind of steer you in the right direction and give you that sort of insight and say, look, you're damaging your career here. You're a footballer. You're a good footballer. Concentrate on that. You know, and stop doing this other stuff, because it's leading you down a path where it's not going to end how you want it to end.
I was lucky in a respect, though. Like, I had a dad who obviously was experienced and he'd been there and done it, and a few times he would give me a clip round the ear if I was going down the wrong path, or I had a dodgy girlfriend or something like that. He would be like, sort yourself out, will you? What are you doing? This isn't going to end well. Do you know what I mean? So I had that kind of... obviously father figure who would steer me in the right direction, which obviously helped. And
it's not to say that when there is a certain level of success that you can't enjoy the things that money and success can bring to you. I just wonder with you, Jamie, especially you talk about that instance of being relegated with Wolves and then finding yourself on a really nice holiday. Is there a sense that there's a gap between what you feel you've achieved and what you feel you've earned in a way? Is that the difference?
Yeah, I think at the time I was kind of living a life where I'd come from nothing, you know, and then I'd been given a great contract, loads of money, and I was enjoying my life, you know, but I'd forgot about what made me be successful. So when I was at Tottenham and being in finals, and, you know, at Portsmouth getting to a cup final, I earned the money, and then you're allowed to enjoy it to a certain degree if you earn it. And when I went to Wolves, I took my foot off the gas a bit, but still had the money and still had the contract and still had the high life, but wasn't producing what I needed to do on the pitch to say, you know what, I can go on holiday and earn that money. You know, I needed to take a step back and realise, you know what, when you take your foot off the gas and you start dropping off in your performances and the way you are as a person, you can't then go on holiday and be pictured in Dubai on yachts and giving it the high life when people are paying good money to come and watch their team play, and you've just been relegated.
I had it with I had my stag do. I was going to New York, and there was a group of I was a group of my mates, and there was a couple of footballers on it. I'm not going to say the names, but a lot more high profile than me. But we'd been relegated with Hull about 3 days before I was due to go away. And like most lads' stag do's, you're going through the airport, they had a few things planned for me, wanted to stick me in a ridiculous outfit or do whatever.
What did you have to wear?
I think they had the Borat mankini for me.
Of course they do.
Which I wouldn't have fancied going through Manchester Airport with it anyway, but I just thought, I can't do that because it just takes one picture with a camera phone. Look at this idiot pictured here.
Don't tell me that was your excuse.
No, that was my excuse.
No,
I got
Alex,
away
it's
with
your
it.
stag do. We've got a Borat mankini. He went, lads, it just doesn't look right.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
But I was conscious of thinking, if someone takes a picture of us having a good time or going on a stag do and acting the goat with the lads and stuff 3 days after we'd just been relegated from the Premier League, it would be obviously frowned upon, you know.
But, I mean, you're less likely to be noticed in New York, though.
Yeah, exactly. So we did get away with a little bit more when we got over there.
Were you aware of your... And obviously you were aware that people knew who your dad was, but were you aware of fame as it related to him? Like, did you know he was famous? Basically?
I think you always know he's famous, and it's totally different, like what you touched on before now with the social media and how much publicity the players get now. So it was a little bit different back then, but I was always, I could obviously tell he was famous, and that's why it just come naturally to me. Really, it was something that I was just used to. People often ask me, what was it like? I'm sure you were the same. Some of your dad's mates coming round and gone on holidays and things like that, but they were just workmates who, like anyone, in my eyes, do you know what I mean? That's just the way it was and the way I was brought up.
Because I don't think of footballers as famous.
No, I don't.
No.
Never have.
And it's funny,
because it's your work.
You say that, right? And people always say to me, like, oh, yeah, you're famous, you're a celebrity. And all that. And I'm not a celebrity, I'm a footballer.
Yeah.
No, but and I tell people the difference in the industries of being in the sports industry and that celebrity world are two different worlds. You know, that celebrity world is like you're chasing it. You have to be in the papers, you have to be here, you have to be at this event, and that, you know, footballers that are, you say, famous, they're not, they're dedicated and successful in their job that they do, and they work and work and work to get to that.
They're role models, aren't
they?
they?
They're role models,
Yeah.
you know, and that the celebrity world and the sports world are completely different worlds, and that's the problem is in football, you become the crossover of when you become a big star now, you're classed as a celebrity, but they're not. They're footballers who have dedicated their life and soul to becoming the top of their trade in their job. And the celebrity world is completely different to that. They want to be controversial. You want to be on the back of the pages and the Daily Mail and all that sort of nonsense. Footballers don't want that, but it's thrust upon them because of who they are and what they've and how successful they've been. It's a completely different world.
It's interesting because it comes back again to that feeling of having earned any of the, and there are benefits that come with having success and with having fame and with being well known. But it comes back to what you were saying earlier on about that feeling of wanting to have earned it, to feel like, well, do you know what, if I'm going to go and do this and if I am going to benefit from this,
of course,
then I want to feel that there's a ground there, that it's built on something solid.
Well, I think that's why at football clubs especially, that's put into you, isn't it, really, from your coaches? I mean, back in my day, like when I first was an apprentice, and I'm sure Jane will tell you the same, we had experienced pros who, if they saw you stepping out of line or getting a bit big for your boots, you get a clip and you get locked in a skip or something like that and thrown in a bath or anything daft, or thrown in a tumble dryer, or that's what the initiation and things like that. It was always to ground you, to make you think, well, don't get too big for your boots, you know what I mean? Because like any footballer will tell you, it's full of ups and downs, isn't it? Where you might think you're the Billy Big Balls all of a sudden, you've played a few games and you're good and everything's great, and then there's an error or there's a mistake just round the corner that'll bring you back down to reality.
But football, you mean you define yourself, like you said, you define yourself by your profession. It's a huge part of who you feel that you are. Is that, I mean, depression obviously is incredibly complicated, and when you were having those problems, was it that difference? Was it that sense of if I'm doing this, it doesn't feel like me, it's not my life, it's not what I've chosen? Yeah,
I mean, for me, when I started to really struggle was, I mean, the sort of the fame kind of took over more than the football, and that become more of the focus of me, and I wasn't playing at Wolves, I was cast aside, I wasn't allowed in the dressing room, I was putting, training with the kids, so everything that I'd ever wanted to do in my life and what I loved the most, I couldn't do.
Away from you.
It got took away from me. So the only thing that was focused on me was being in OK Magazine or being in the papers, and I started to look at my life and think, this isn't me. This isn't the person who I am. I'm just being someone that the press have made up. And all I wanted to do was get to just play football and get back on a football pitch. But because I couldn't, you become further and further down in your mental state. So I really struggled, and in the end, I made some terrible mistakes. I ended up getting divorced, but in the end, I moved away from everything. I backed out of everything I wanted to do in terms of football, all the sort of fame stuff and sponsorship things I had, and I just moved away. And for about 6 months, went silent. And then I just rebuilt myself. And it was actually Harry Redknapp who gave me a chance to get back in. He said, he was at QPR, he was a manager, and he said, come down and train, because I'd had him before. He said, Jamie, you're a good lad, come down and train, get back on a football pitch and find your fitness, and we'll see what we can do. And I went back in there, and he was different class. And he saved my life. Genuinely saved my life.
Is that in those 6 months that you took away? Yeah. Is that how bad it got?
Yeah. I was in a terrible state. I really was, because I didn't see a path. So I do a lot of visualisation stuff now and mental health about, as footballers, when we grow up, we don't even realise it, but we're visualising where we want to be in the future. All we think about is becoming footballers and being, the pinnacle of our trade. So you're visualising that every day. Now, if you don't visualise, if you lose that visualisation, so you don't have a path, you don't have a future or a set goal, you become in a world of, you're all over the place. And I got to that point where I didn't see a future and I didn't see a path for myself or, an end goal. So I was just stuck. And when you get into that position, it's a really dangerous place to be.
Just goes to show, though, how influential an experienced manager like a Harry Redknapp or someone of that ilk can be to a young lad who can point you in the right direction. I mean, we've all had managers who have cast somebody aside and gone training, go and get you ready in a separate dressing room and try to ostracise you from the group. And I don't think sometimes people realise what effect it can actually have on people. It's tough. And we've all been there, haven't we? I mean, I know mates of mine even at people who've had really, really good careers, who've been in the Premier League, who dropped down to like a League One or a Championship level, and the manager might not think he's got the legs or he's still good enough. So he'll do it to someone who's been around the block and put them in the reserves, make them train with the kids. And it gets people in really, really bad ways, and it can be poisonous.
Yeah, you have to be aware of how someone is in themselves, and that you're dealing with a person, not just a commodity. Yeah.
Well, me being a manager now, that's something I'm huge on. Like dealing with certain individuals and personalities, and the experiences that I've had as a player. I've had adulation. I've had rock bottom. I've been cast aside, not allowed. And I look at that and think, I'd never treat a player like that. I'd never do that to someone, even if he's not doing the business for me. Or, I always think, I always look at it and think, why is he not doing the business? Why is he not performing? Or, when you see these managers, I think there's a couple of managers now, I won't say their names, but seeing that they're training with the kids, the percent players are training with the kids, not involved. And I just think, how can you treat a person like that who's potentially given you great results and worked hard for the club, done everything, been a model pro, and you just cast them aside? For me, that's one of the biggest, stigmas and things in sort of managers these days I hate.
People can get power pissed though, can't they, as well? Do you know what I mean? Where you think, just because they get in that managerial role where you think, I can do whatever I want to people, do you know? I can bomb him, I can send him to the reserves, I can do this, and I can do... I think with experience, as you get a little bit older and they get a bit more know-how, especially in management, you realise after a while, hold on a minute, if I treat people that way, ultimately it'll come back round full circle and bite me in the arse anyway. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So there are managers who will do that just to assert their authority, just to say where they are in the pecking order.
Especially if I've been in dressing rooms where someone's been a big character and they might not be doing it on the pitch, and the manager can stamp his authority out by going, right, I'm going to pick on him because it'll send a message to the rest of the group. That's the way football is, isn't it? Sometimes
I've had it happen to me. Kenny Jackett coming at Wolves, we'd got relegated. I had a terrible time. I was, big money signing, didn't work out. I struggled with injuries. Was in a terrible sort of frame of mind. Kenny Jackett come in, was a new regime, pulled me into the office first. Never met Kenny Jackett. He went, no, don't want any issues with you, but you're not allowed in the training ground until after 3 p.m.
What happens at 3 p.m?
It's when everyone goes home.
Yeah.
So it was 6 of us. It was me, Roger Johnson, Kevin Doyle, Foley. Good Foley. Players.
Good lads as well.
Good lads, proper lads. So and it was like, no, that's it. You're done, out. And I'd done it for a whole year. Didn't play one match of football. I trained on my own with a coach. They hired a coach, Wolves, to come in and just train us 5 players. I was and it put. I look at it now and I think, you know what? That put me on a really sort of, when I look back, really made me strong in terms of my mental sort of state, because I went to such a bad place and come back from it.
How does that make you feel when you walk in?
It's the worst feeling. It's like saying you're never be allowed to be a presenter again,
Yeah.
All right.
Do you know the thing is,
it's not football, is it?
It can have an effect on the other members of the dressing room, because if Jamie was a big character and I seen, or if he was a really close mate of mine and I seen it happening to him, it would affect me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's another thing that can affect. It's got so many different.
My teammates they didn't care.
Depends how.
Couldn't wait to sit back at me.
Yeah,
but I was never. See, I was always classed as a little bit as like, he's a bad egg, or he's a bit this, and I never was. It was always like an outside sort of perception that people had, because I was a bit of a loud character. I always have a laugh, and because of the sort of public eye figure that I had, people always think, he's just a playboy. And if you ask, I love training. I loved going in every day. I loved having banter in the dressing room. And when someone takes that away from you, it's like taking your legs away. away from you. You know, it's the worst feeling in the world, and people don't understand what it feels like when, as a player, when you've worked your whole life to have something, to get to that pinnacle, even if it's, you know, just to be a footballer. You don't have, not top, even just Championship, League One, to go in every day and work with people and enjoy the game. When someone takes that away from you and you can't do it anymore, it is the worst feeling.
Well, if you ask most players when you come out of the game, what do you miss the most? It is that dressing room banter and going into work every day and seeing your mates and having a laugh. And I mean, I've been out of the game now for 3 weeks since I left Kilmarnock, and the one thing that you miss is
tell, mate.
When you come on, man. I was going to say, Jesus Christ. But the one thing that you do miss is getting up every morning and thinking, well, I'm going to go to work today, and I'll be with the lads. And when that's took away from you, people, when you're playing, and you hear people say that, you think, God, it can't be that bad, can it? But when you're actually on your own in the house and you think, what am I actually going to do today?
Is it lonely?
Yeah. Bloody right it is. You drop the kids off and you think, Christ, what am I going to do now? Yeah. Especially when you've done it for such a long time of your life, and then all of a sudden it ends and you think, God, that is tough, really tough.
Is that part of the appeal of going into management then, to try and get some of that back?
Yeah, for me it was I come out of Big Brother, and I went on Big Brother and done that whole sort of thing to change people's perception of me a little bit, and the money was great, you know? So I couldn't turn it down. But after that, I realised, I was like, you know what, I really want to get back into football. You know, that show gave me the incentive to be like, I really missed the game. And I didn't before that because politics and injuries, and I'd had enough of it. But after that, I was like, you know what, I want to get back into it. So I went to Billericay, and they gave me the opportunity to start playing, get back in the dressing room. But I always had in my mind, I was like, you know what, I'm coming to the end of my career a little bit, struggle with injuries. So I thought, I'm happiest when I'm around the football pitch and around football people. So how do I sustain that? How do I get that longevity? And it was like, I've got to be a coach. And I always fancied myself as a coach or a manager. So I started to study the game, because I knew there was going to be, in the next 2 or 3 years, there was going to come an opportunity or a point where there was going to have that chance to go into it. And that was the only way for me, I thought, mentally, to keep myself happy and in a good place, was to stay in football.
What about you? You're on that path, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm just at the crossroads now, what I'm going to do. And obviously done a few bits media-wise, which has been enjoyable. But I would like to have a crack at it, whether it's coaching or management. But we were talking before, weren't we? It's all about opportunity as well, because you can spend like 4 or 5 years doing your coaching badges now, get your first job, have a nightmare, few results, and that's it. You're out the door and you never get a job again. So, like what you were saying before, I think if you're going to get your first job, it's got to be with a chairman who knows it's your first one. Like anything where you're going to be a bit inexperienced, you can be allowed to make a couple of mistakes, as long as they're not too bad. But it's just about picking the right job, I think, is the most important thing.
Yeah, it's I suppose as well, like Jamie's saying about, you go through that path and you start as a young kid and you play football and you want to be a footballer, you become a footballer, and then that goes, and then you think, well, but you're second generation of that, so you've seen that cycle once, and now you're in the middle of the second phase of it. Yeah,
well, obviously I've got a behind closed doors look at what it's like being a manager and the problems it can have in terms of if they have a bad result and what they're like coming home. You'll vouch for it.
It's horrible. It's honestly,
awful.
I don't. Jamie, close your ears a second.
It's bad enough being a player coming home.
Yeah.
But I look at my dad sometimes and I see when he gets beaten, he takes the responsibility of the club and the players, and it's like he takes it all on his shoulders, and you can see it in them, because people think, well, you get paid good money and it is what it is. And I think a big thing now as well, you've got the influences of social media where you're getting slaughtered down there as well, and the family members
Dad look
are getting
at
involved.
Social media?
Hates it and would never look at social media.
Not even to stalk the players.
No, he's
that's what I would do.
Yeah.
I would have a sleeper account and go and have a look at what the players
gets our Amy, my sister, to have a look. I don't know if any of them buggers have been in any nightclubs in Newcastle this weekend, you know what I mean? But no, these are all things that people don't see behind the scenes, and it's tough, really is.
But it is the effect on the family as well. I mean, you mentioned your sister. I remember talking to your mum and your sister about it after a game once, and it's just when it's horrible, like you just like, and it's not what comes on the manager themselves. It's what happens to the immediate family as well.
But there's a few times where it can turn toxic, can't it? Like I look back experience of my dad, like being at Villa, where it got toxic in the end. And there was the famous incident where the fella throws the cabbage at me old man. Me and my dad are similar kind of characters. I actually found it quite funny at the time, but really, when you look at it, and it's not really. It can have a negative, especially when you see your sister upset, your mum upset, and like he's got my kids now. My kids, obviously my dad's got grandkids, where they look at things on the telly and they're asking questions. Why has this happened? Why are they shouting for Grandad? Why are they saying this about Grandad? These are all things that you just have to get on with it and try and explain to your kids and your sister, whoever it is, that it's part and parcel of what it is. You just have to have a thick skin, and it can have huge highs, football, in management as a player, but you've got to be prepared to take the shit as well.
Yeah, and you've got to deal with some tricky characters who go through difficult situations. I mean, how would you as a manager, how would you handle you as a player?
Oh, I'd get him straight out the door.
Transfer
come in.
You're not to the reserve. Yeah.
You're not allowed in the training ground till after 3 o'clock, mate.
Go and train yourself.
Yeah.
It's a good question, because I wouldn't say I was a difficult character, because I was really easy to get on with, as a player. But obviously I had other stuff in my life which kind of created a persona about someone. So if I was a manager now and I had someone like that, I'd want to get to know him first instead of making a quick assumption on him, because I think there's a lot of people who are quick to judge without really knowing the person. So I would get to know myself as a manager, if I was the player. Sorry, if I was managing me, I would get to know him first before I made a decision on him, and I would look to him and go, how can I get the best out of this player? Because he's a talented footballer. And he's played at the top. So, what can I get out of him to see if does he still have the desire? Does he still have the heart to do it? And how can I help him? Because we don't know individuals until you meet them properly and spend some time with them. What
would have worked for you? What kind of manager? What would somebody needed to have done? What would be the best thing they could have done for you?
Put me on a diet.
Okay, and made you stick to it. But what I mean is, it's not just about telling a player what to do, is it? It's about getting them to listen to you and to carry that out.
This is the biggest thing I've learned, stepping into it. And I know it's not the level of someone like Steve, but it's the same. You're dealing with the same
pressures, the same decisions, and
you're dealing with the same people, footballers, and
possibly even a bigger job in some ways, in that you're probably more involved in different levels.
Well, you take on a lot
club.
more. I mean, you can't say it's a bigger job.
It's a daunting task of, if you said to anyone who's never done it before, no matter what level it is, right, you're going into that dressing room, you're standing in front of all these lads who've got their own characters, own egos, and you're the boss of them.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the level is, it's daunting on everyone, isn't it?
I just think, because Jurgen Klopp said, I think it was this week or last week, he said, when I was a manager at Mainz, he went, what I did, I've now got 5 people working for me at Liverpool who do that same job. That's when I say bigger job, I mean there's probably more facets to it.
The National League South is you have a manager, you have an assistant manager, and you might have a coach and a physio. That's probably about it. You don't have any recruitment. You don't have someone who does your contracts. You don't have directors of football. You do everything. I do the coaching, the contracts, getting the players in, the scouting, watching games, analysing. You do everything. So, but for me, I've loved it and embraced it because I'm young.
And it's a great learning curve.
And it's a great learning curve. So you're eager. I mean, I guess if I stepped up the ladder, you'd probably say, you know what, I need a decent scout. I need someone to do this analysis, because it's hard to take everything on board and be at the top all the time, because what I've found is as a manager, there's so many different types of managers, and I don't think there's any right or wrong way of being a manager. It's just, what I found is that you've got to go into that dressing room and you've got to make them believe in what you're doing, and however that is and whatever it is, as long as the players believe it and they respect you for it, then it'll work.
I think ultimately you've just got to be yourself. If you try and be someone else, like if you went in and said, I'm going to copy Klopp style or Pep style, one of the top ones, and you try and mirror what they do, you'll get found out in the end. I think it's important that you are yourself, you stick to your own beliefs of what you believe, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, obviously you fall by the wayside.
Do you think footballers in a football environment are good judges of character? Because they're around that. I don't necessarily mean outside the game, because you see people getting bad advice and mixing with the wrong kind of friends and stuff, but in a football environment purely.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you're in that environment, that's why you need a good dressing room and things like that, don't you? Where it's important to have a good group of experienced players who can help the manager out, because if you haven't got that, it makes your job a lot more difficult, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's key to have good characters in a dressing room, and it's key to know your players in terms of who you can rely on, and, you know, who do you need to put an arm round. You know, you're going back to me, I'd say I'd probably needed an arm around me a little bit. You know, I didn't need, when someone were hammering me all the time and picking up every little detail of something I was doing wrong, that probably affected me more. You know, I needed people to build me up. So you've got to know every individual of the players you've got in your dressing room. You can't just treat every player as a whole. You know, like, you got to treat them all differently. And then if you can pick out the ones that I put an arm around him, I can tell him straight, or, you know, I can, you know, bring him into my office and tell him straight, but I won't do it in front of the players because you don't like that. But if you can get that and you build that relationship with each individual, that's when you start getting the best out of them, you get the best team.
Respect's a big thing. I think when you've got a manager who you respect, whether he's the kind of manager who will put... We've all had managers who are your mate, who can come in every morning, who'll, "Hiya, pal, how you doing? Have you had a good weekend? What you been doing?" And we've had managers like that, and then you've had another manager who would walk past you in the corridor and not say a word.
Who would do that? Who would just not talk to you?
Not talk to you. I've had managers before where they'll just walk past you in a corridor. I'm sure, yeah, bloody right I have. Especially if you get beat on a Saturday as well.
Was it just you, or did he do that to everybody?
Probably just me. No, but no, you've got managers who just keep themselves to themselves, who don't say much, really just keep everything in house, and don't really get to know the players and take a back seat. Whereas if you have other managers who will come in and be one of the lads. But I think ultimately you can be either way, as long as you've got that respect for the players. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Honesty, I think, is the one thing that and I think that's what you're saying about not pretending to be someone you're not,
exactly,
or making false promises.
Yeah, exactly.
The biggest thing I've found, and, you know, footballers are not stupid. You know, they might look stupid, but they're not. Like, they'll suss you out really quickly. And if you're not honest with people, and they don't see like you're being straight with them, they go the other way, you lose them. So I've found now is, if you're going to say something to someone, say it straight to them, say it to their face, because they respect you more for that. If you start sort of leaving them out, not giving them reasons, or you're not happy about something, all of a sudden you lose them as a player. You know, you've lost them, and then it's really hard. And then that seeps into the camp. Oh, he's saying this or he's saying that. And I think the respect and honesty as a manager is the biggest thing you need to get right.
You talked about Harry Redknapp and about him giving you that chance to get back into the game. Was he the one for you? Was he the most significant manager, do you think, in your career in that sense?
Him and, one day Ramos. So two different types of... Ramos gave him the opportunity, and he was completely different to Harry Redknapp. He couldn't speak English, but he had Gus Poyet as his assistant manager, and he was brilliant. And yeah, Harry Redknapp was the guy who, I remember first day he walked in at Tottenham when he got the job, and I was a good player. I was in the team. I was on peanuts, and he had, you know, big players on 60 grand a week, and I was literally on peanuts. And he come in and he said, put his arm around me, and he went, "James, do the business for me for 4 months to get you a new contract, proper contract." And that was it. That's all he said to me. But he had me, you know, and that was it. And my drive was immense. And within 4 months, he gave me a new deal on the day. You know, and he'd give me that belief to, you know, believe him. But it's only a little thing, but it was that little arm around the shoulder, you know, and little things like that. And when I was down in the dumps and no one wanted me and no one was interested in taking Jamie O'Hara as blacklisted, he got on the phone and he said, "You know what, James, come and train with us. I'll give you a chance." And it was from that moment I went in and trained at QPR, and he said, "Look, James, just start believing in yourself again." Was when actually my career got back on track, and I went to Blackpool and I went to Fulham, got player of the season again, you know. And it was managers like that can have a huge impact.
It was streetwise as well, to know what to say to the right people. Do you know what I mean? And being, as I say, streetwise enough to be able to, I know what's going to make you tick. Yeah. Jamie O'Hara, and I'll say this, and you might say something else. You might give him over there a rocket and say something completely different to get him going. Do you know what I mean? And it's having that know-how to think what to say to each individual. I think.
I'm going to ask you about the best manager that you played under as well, but given that it's a slightly sensitive subject, I will give you a couple of minutes to think about it. Just a reminder that you are listening to and watching Liquid Football on Joe. I'm Kelly Cates, alongside me Alex Bruce and Jamie O'Hara. And in the latest episode of House of Rugby, Alex Payne and James Haskell were joined by the British and Irish Lions star Sean O'Brien, who had a fairly novel assessment of how he became such a good player.
You're watching Liquid Football on Joe.
You used to walk in the local mart.
Yeah.
So basically, I'd be catching sheep all day long and loading them into trailers for the different farmers. A few of the farmers used to get me from after the mart was over then, and they'd bring me and let me sort out all their sheep and stuff with them, because I was pretty handy at catching them and throwing them in a trailer, like. So yeah,
is it a ridiculous?
If you can see it,
is it a ridiculous question to ask? Did that have any sort of? I love the idea of Colin Pinetree. It did.
Absolutely. There's lads at home that play on my Tulla Rugby Club team.
Yeah.
That we've coached, and they're farmers, and these boys are like some of the best lads on it are the sheep farmers, because they will chop everything and
spatial
have
awareness.
Something by the leg in a minute, like.
Can you do
There was a thing when you got like Nick Easter had like dad strength.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, when I've met Shorty, he has farmer strength. Like, look at him, like big wrists, big hands, big arms, big shot. Like that, like it goes for it counts for a lot of strength.
You're watching Liquid Football on Joe.
So Sean O'Brien saying that his success is down to sheep tossing. Either of you practiced in that art?
I can't say no, I've not done any sheep tossing. What do you mean sheep tossing, Kelly?
Well, quite. Listen to House of Rugby and you'll find out. The boys are back tomorrow. They're reflecting on a big weekend, of course, in the Six Nations. And don't forget, TKO with Carl Frampton. Special guest this week, Tyson Fury's former coach, Ben Davison, and the WBA and IBF light welterweight world champion, Josh Taylor. You can watch both shows on YouTube, or you can download them as a podcast. Now, Alex, you've had a few minutes to decide, a few minutes to cogitate.
I'm not going to say the obvious one, but one manager I really, really enjoyed working for, and it was only for a short period of time because I went on loan to Leicester, left Ipswich, was Nigel Pearson. I really enjoyed working for him. A little bit like what Jamie said, he had that way of, he was like a father figure type where he'd put an arm around you and he just made everything seem all right, whether it was a good result, bad result. He didn't get carried away. He was constantly on a level playing field. He treated everyone very fairly. There was none of this bombing people to the reserves and sending him over there and banishing him to another training ground. Or he was just a really fair, honest guy, and what he said to you respected. And I think you can see that now, the way he's had an impact on going into Watford, and he's got them playing really well. Steve Clark, who I went to up with Kilmarnock last year, he was different to Nigel, didn't really say much, but an exceptional coach where you'd go on the training pitch and his organisation and his sessions were immaculate. So he earned my respect in that way straight away, where his training and everything about his preparation for games and stuff was second to none. So I'd probably pick them two as who've really impressed me.
So they've had a very positive effect on your career. And we obviously said missing out the obvious one. What's the weirdest thing that's ever happened under a manager?
The weirdest thing that's ever happened under a manager, we touched on it before, was the Roy Keane situation where we went to the parachute regiment, really. I think that was probably the weirdest scenario that I've been put in my time. Not that it was good or bad or anything, it was just different, where he took us with the Colchester Parachute Regiment for 2 days, which was just down the road from Ipswich. And we were doing all kinds of stuff, from physical activities to mental, and the parachute regiment were obviously getting us to do all kinds of mad stuff for 2 days. So I'm not going to go into detail what you were thinking.
Come on, I want to know now. I want to know. Come on.
No.
Come on.
No, listen, we were living off the land basically, and eating what we had to kill what we ate at the evening and cook it on a bonfire. And
Did you do it?
Yeah, we had to do it. Yeah.
Did you personally do it?
No, I didn't personally do it. Thankfully, the parachute regiment guys did. They were professional in what they were doing, but it was an experience to say the least. But obviously, Roy felt at the time it was all something aided to try and create a bit of spirit amongst the lads, and it was different but enjoyable at the time.
Did it work for you?
No. We lost the first 8 games of the season, I think. So, no, went down like a lead balloon.
Well, what effect did it have on you personally then? Because you can maybe sort of guess at how it affected some of the other players. How did it affect you?
Well, it affected me in a way where I respected what them lads do, the paras in Colchester. Obviously, I thought, wow, it's hard work. As I say, living off the land. We slept rough that night in the woods. We were up at 5 a.m, marching across ravines and doing all kinds of stuff. But
proper job.
Yeah, proper job, where we thought, bloody hell, it's tough, this. And I think at the time when you do pre-season, it's always tough, like doing the running drills and everything else. But
not when you're at the back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but to do something different like what we did, it gave a different insight into actually what real work is.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about the sort of process of being a footballer, and then when it stops, and for whatever reason that it stops, we've seen that Alan Hutt and Kenny Miller have sort of announced their retirement in the last few days. What are the nuts and bolts of leaving a club when you know that it is coming to the end of your career, or it might be one of the last moves? I mean, do you go in with a bag, put your stuff in from your locker, and just leave? Is it that brutal?
Pretty much, yeah. You give it a bin bag, so there you go, on you go, shake a few
Kit man
hands.
comes in the end of the season. My contract was. I'm just thinking when my contracts normally run to the end of the season. So, season's up. You haven't sorted the deal out, or you're waiting. You go in and kit man gives you a black bag and stick all your boots in there, stick your shirts in there, say your goodbyes, and that's it. Pretty much. See you later.
Yeah, it really is cutthroat like that, where you'll be with your teammates every day for maybe 4 or 5, depending on how long you're at a club. And then, like I say, at the end of the season, if your contract's not being renewed, that's it, you're gone. You're done. And you know what it's like as well, you've had a long career, and I have as well, where you'll do a job for like 17, 18 years, and you'll be in a dressing room for 4 or 5 years with certain lads who you'd class as really good mates. And then when you leave that club, probably count on one hand the people you still speak to in football. Do you know what I mean? It's madness, really.
I always say footballers are like ships in the night.
Yeah.
Like they come, they spend a bit of time together, and then they go, and that's it. But
then when you bump into them later down the line, you'll see them and it'll be like, God, I've seen him yesterday. You know what I mean? You might not have seen that person for 8 years or whatever it is. It's quite surreal, really.
Yeah. And you leave. So you leave with all your stuff in a bag, and you go. But in the build up to that, if the other players know that that's going to be your last day, they're not like have a cake or give you the bumps or something. No, but give you the bumps. You know what I mean? But what do they not? Is there not some kind of a little speech, or does anybody even a little personal conversation?
I think it depends what kind of character you are, really, doesn't it? And how popular you are in the dressing room.
I think if you've been at a club for sort of like 8-10 years and you're a massive figure at that football club, then
it's different.
It's a bit different. But me especially, I was probably only at clubs for a couple of years and I was off. So, I mean, I always just looked at it was another chapter. It was another opportunity. I never looked at leaving a football club as, oh, that's it, it's the end for me. I always looked at the positive side of it of, well, it's another fresh start somewhere, and it's another opportunity to do something. And I always looked at it as footballers are very individualised, even though you're in a team and you work hard as a team, but you're very individualised people. I think the people that affect the most when you're coming home with your kit bag and the black bag and you're putting it down in the garage is your family. I always struggled with that, coming home and saying, don't think this deal is going to happen, we're going to have to look at something else, and you're having to move and start again and look for that new contract and getting on your agent. When you're at the football club, you don't think about all that stuff.
I think the biggest thing in my experience anyway is not to get too emotionally attached, because if you do, football can be that ruthless where you're at one end of the country 1 minute and in one night you can be at the opposite end and not see it. So I think you've got to try and keep it professional, really. And if you get emotionally attached, it can be difficult because ties can be broken very easily.
That was the problem with me. I struggled with that. I was always really emotionally involved. Like I wanted to be there, and it was, when I was at Fulham, I look back and I think Fulham was the build-up from where I was to get back to playing for Fulham after being cast aside for so long. Fulham was like my big fingers up to everyone to say I'm back at a big club. And then when they didn't give me a new deal, I really struggled after that. I went the complete. I was gone again, and I really struggled to build myself up, and I struggled really mentally, because that for me was like being at Fulham Football Club was a huge deal. So when I lost that again, I didn't, and the performances, I played really well, but didn't quite get enough to give me a new deal. Emotionally, got the better of me.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of players struggle with that.
In what way did it affect you?
Well, it's just like everything you kind of built up for again, And then as you get older, you get more and used to it. But you think, I've done all this work and done all this dedication, and I haven't quite got that new deal again. now I've got to go and do it all over again.
You've got to get into a dressing room and
Yeah,
get
I've got
well liked again. I'm popular here. I've got loads of mates, and I'm good. Even the people from behind the scenes, you can have good relationships, not necessarily with the players, the physios, the kit men. We're all in it together, where you can be a part of a unit and you find yourself like really popular in that unit. And then all of a sudden you're told you go in somewhere else and you think, God, I've got to prove myself all over again. And these are all things. Now the supporter might say, yeah, but you're getting paid this a week and it's easy. Actually, you're only going into a dressing room, but it's quite daunting if you go into that dressing room and some lads might take differently to you what you were like at your previous dressing room. Yeah. You might be well liked at that club and think, actually, you're not really having this fella in your new dressing room. Do you know what I mean? It's all different.
Yeah. And when you left Kilmarnock, what stage are you at?
I haven't closed the door on playing. I'm not naive enough to say my phone's going to be hopping because I'm 35 now, unfortunately. I'm at that horrible phase where for the last couple of weeks I'm thinking to myself, is that it? It's horrible, isn't it?
I need a centre half.
But no, it's just...
couple of £100 a week, that's it.
Travel expenses?
Too far. I left Kilmarnock because I wanted to be a bit closer to home with the travelling and everything, but it's...
People don't know that though, do they? They don't see that, the travelling, like you're living in Manchester, you're driving to Kilmarnock, getting up,
listening to you in the mornings on the radio.
Chat rubbish.
Falling asleep out of the wheel. But, no, it was the main reason why I left Kilmarnock. I really enjoyed it, but it was the 4 or 5 nights a week for a year away from my wife and kid. I only signed 1 year contract, so to uproot my 2 kids up to Kilmarnock would have been a bit much for them out of schools and all the rest of it. So I was in a hotel 4 or 5 nights a week, saying bye to my kids, having them upset where you're like, when are we going to see your dad? And it's like, I'll see you next week. And these are the side of things where it's tough. It is tough, but no, hopefully I can keep playing if I can. I still feel as if I've got a little bit of life left in me. But if it is something, it's going to have to be commutable, where it's going to have to tickle me in that sense. And
thing is, it's all about the overlapping centre halves now.
No, exactly. Which
the fitness
help.
levels, and
help, yeah.
But people see that. You see managers now, and you say like, yeah, he's 35. People straight away they go, no.
Yeah,
35. No, not for us. But
where does that come from? From the manager themselves, or from the board, or from what?
Both. Yeah, I think it comes from a bit of both. The board, especially. They say, oh yeah, he's 35. But what they don't see, I've got a lad, Ron Henry, played 500 games in the league, 35, 36, runs the most, trains the most, and is the most dedicated. He's 35. Yeah. And he's the best player. So people are really quick to write people off because of their age or where they are and what point they are in their career, but they don't realise. Until you see that person and see him playing, how good they can still be.
Yeah, exactly. I was a few mates of mine asked me to go and play 6-a-side the other night in Cheadle, near where I live, and a couple of ex-players, and Stevie Ireland was playing, and I'd never met Stevie before, and we were only playing 5-6-a-side, and the amount of ability he had and the way he was running around, and you think to yourself, surely he can still. He's only 33. And he just...
Is he only 33?
Yeah. And you think...
Can't get an opportunity.
And he hasn't played now for it might be a couple of years.
Yeah.
And the way he was running around and stuff, and you just think, wow, what a shame, what a waste of talent. But as I say, you get to that... He's had a few hurdles in his life where it might have affected him, but by God, still lots of ability. Still a fit lad.
They look at young players now. You say, the young players and resale value and all that type of thing. But there's still life in the old dogs.
Yeah, there is.
Still, you got to have a balance. You can't just have a team of young kids because it doesn't work because there's too much inexperience there, and consistency with young players is the biggest thing. They're inconsistent. When you've got them experienced lads and you have the right blend with that, is when you put that together, is when you get the perfect scenario with a team, and that's how you build a team. You can blend them together. So you still need them players in the game, and I feel like they're getting pushed out.
Well, I thought when I left Kilmarnock, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go back to the Northwest. I've played 20 games up until now this season where I'm fit and I've played a lot. Only played a couple of weeks ago on Sky against Celtic, and you think, if I go back down towards the Northwest, surely my phone might ring, do you know what I mean? And no, it doesn't. People obviously look at it and think 35 is over the hill, and that's the brutal nature of it.
And they're just making that judgment on...
Yeah.
Because it doesn't happen in I mean, do you know? There isn't a list of
him on that Sky Games.
yeah. But you know, there's a
Edward did turn me to bits. Like
I'm not going to talk Edward. But that's the thing, is it's not done in a way that you go on I don't know, like a website. There isn't a LinkedIn for footballers who are coming to the end of their contract that are now sort of available. It's all word of mouth. You're waiting for people to kind of hear and thinking, do you know what? And opportunity as well. Somebody who's needing a centre half at the same time that you're available.
And you've got the added one as well of, like, when you get to my age and you come out and you say, I wouldn't mind a crack at management or coaching or whatever. Some managers might see you as a threat for the job as well, which is a thing that people have to just accept. That's what it is. I mean, I wouldn't want to bring somebody in who I'm thinking, well, he wants to be a manager and I'm having a string of bad results.
Yeah, I noticed Jamie said you can come and play for us. You can't come and be my assistant.
Might have to sign something to say I don't want your job. But no,
you wouldn't get it.
So
so potentially coming towards the end. Well, you are coming towards the end, even if this isn't the.
Of course.
Do you look back and think there are any things you would have done differently? Are you fairly satisfied with the way it went?
I think overall I've been satisfied. Like what I said before, sometimes you wish you had a crystal ball, knowing what I know now, to say I might have been a bit rash in that decision or had that argument with that manager when I shouldn't have. And there's things in every walk of life where you think I should have probably done that differently. But
small things rather than big sliding doors.
But small things sometimes can affect the way someone thinks about you. So I might say something here now that sounds very trivial and small, but that could change the way a manager thinks about a certain individual. So in hindsight, you look back at things and think I might have handled that a little bit differently. But these are all learning curves. When you go into management like what Jamie is now, you take these experiences on board and hopefully take them on with you.
Time now for the Liquid Football Challenge, which this week is Brucey's Price is Right. The boys have to guess the correct transfer fee. Listen, we're nothing if not obvious. You have to guess the correct transfer fee when I name the player in the move, write it down on your boards, keep it secret from each other, and then it's the big reveal. Whoever's closest gets the points. There are 11 players and 11 moves in total. Erling Braut Haaland from Salzburg to Dortmund, but how much did he go for?
That won a lot, wasn't it?
3, 2, 1, turn. Oh, there's a big gap there. So 15 million from Jamie. 35 from Alex. The correct figure is 18 million pounds. So you are correct.
Well done, mate.
You're right. The second move is Harry Maguire from Leicester to Manchester United. But how much did he go for?
I'm ready.
On 3, 2, 1. You've both gone for 80 million and you are both within 1.7 million of the correct, 78.3 million pounds. Right, third one. Cristiano Ronaldo, his move from Real Madrid to Juventus. 3, 2, 1. 60 million from Alex, 112 from Jamie. It was 105.3 million pounds. Jamie, 3-1. Martin Braithwaite has just gone in as a substitute to Barcelona. Leganes to Barcelona. Have we got it? Have we both got a number?
I'm having a nightmare.
3, 2, 1, go. 40 million pounds from Alex, 18 million for Jamie. It is 16.2 million pounds.
I'm having a nightmare.
Come on, mate.
What's going on?
Number 5 for Steve Bruce.
Looking well there.
From Norwich to Manchester United.
I mean, he was good, but he weren't that good.
I think it's right.
Jamie's gone for 4 million. Alex has gone for 800. And the correct price was 1.08 million pounds. So Alex, at last,
he got you
you're
close.
back on the score
Must have been a few add-ons on that.
Player number 6, Kepa Arrizabalaga from Athletic Bilbao. 3, 2, 1, go. Let's see them. Both gone for 70 million, and you're both within 2 million, just the 2 million, and 72 million pounds with that record-breaking transfer. So 5-3. Jamie's still in front. This is one that's quite widely quoted, so you might have a chance of this one. Andy Robertson from Hull to Liverpool for 9.8 from Jamie, 8 from Alex. The correct fee is 8.1 million pounds.
I knew it was 8.
This one, Jamie Vardy from Fleetwood to Leicester.
Haven't got a clue. Can't be a lot.
You'd be surprised.
Ready, steady, go. 1.8 from Alex. Well, 1.8 from Jamie.
1.8.
How have I got the same?
1.8.
He's cheated there.
Which means you get a point each. It was 1.12, so not far off either of you at all in that one.
It's a good guess, that, isn't it?
Right, 6-5. Jamie is still in the lead. Mo Salah from Roma to Liverpool. But what did he go for?
Oh, I have not got a clue what this one is.
Are we ready?
Maybe one or two. Well,
Mo Salah from Roma to Liverpool for 65 or 40 million pounds. Jamie, 37.8
how's he got
million
in for that
pounds.
much? That's unbelievable.
Jamie O'Hara from Tottenham to Wolves.
Come on here. What's
for
that?
Now I'm quite interested now because if you get this wrong, I want to know where the difference has gone.
My agent knows what it is. I don't know whether I know what it is. We'll find out.
Jamie O'Hara from Tottenham to Wolves for. Jamie thinks 5 million.
You might be right.
Alex thinks 4 million.
If this is right, this is embarrassing.
The correct answer is 3.3.
That is wrong. That is wrong. There is add-ons on that. It was 5.
James Milner from Manchester City to Liverpool went for how much
I know
money?
it. I've got it. I know it.
Ready? Steady. James Milner to Liverpool for 30 million pounds, says Jamie. Alex.
Did he go for free?
He went on a free.
Yeah! Oh, no!
Why would you let him run out of contract?
That is ridiculous.
7-all is the final score. You drew level. A late rally and you're back level.
We're not going to have a tie.
Do you want one? We have got one. The decider is...
No pressure, mate.
I know. I've let it slip.
Wayne Bridge from Chelsea to Manchester City for how much money? Jamie has gone for 7.75.
Surely it's
Alex
more than
has gone
that.
for 16.8, and we might need to get the calculators involved.
Oh, is it close?
He went for 11.7. Jamie, you're just close.
It's in there!
Bastard.
Do you think moving into management, Jamie, because you've talked about the times that you wish you'd made different decisions or the times when it has been really hard for you, do you think going into management is almost a chance for you to put those things right in your own head in a way, to kind of to look back at decisions you could have made differently and think I can help somebody else not to make those decisions?
Yeah, for me now it's not about myself. You know, being a manager, you know, I never feel like I look back on my career and I think I could have done this, I could have done that, but I should have stayed out of the limelight, I should have done this. But I always think, you know what, the path I'm on now is because of what I've done in the past.
Yeah.
And where I'm at now is the best I've ever been. And what I'm doing now is everything I've always wanted. So I can't regret my past because it's put me where I am today. And I look at it and I think, as a manager now, if I can help my team or some certain players who, you know, to not make the mistakes I did and be that father figure to a certain extent and help them, then I'm using my experience to better someone else in the game. So that for me is why I'm still in it and why I love the game. And I think that's the perfect manager to have. If you've got a manager who's, I've done everything. I've had the ups and downs. I've been everywhere. So as a manager now, if I can help a player in my team to find his path and find his journey, that's what being a manager is all about.
You can't ask for much more than being happy with where you are right now. And
well,
where
I'd
you're
like
going.
to have Steve Bruce's job.
I don't think you would at the minute.
Hey guys, thank you very much for joining us this week. That is it for this episode of Liquid Football from Joe. We're available every Tuesday. You can download the podcast or you can watch us on YouTube. And if you like what you see and hear, then please leave us a nice review. A 5-star one if you like. We've also got a Facebook page. If you search for Liquid Football, you can join in the chat there. And you can check out our other shows as well. House of Rugby with James Haskell and TKO with Carl Frampton. For now though, thanks for listening.
You've been watching Liquid Football on Joe.